All right, what's up, world? How you doing? Hope you're doing pretty good today. I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. But yeah, I wanted to share with you all just some thoughts I had today, and I asked like ChatGPT this question, which was like, what is optimization the fundamental problem for humanity, right? And what do I mean by that? Like I'm talking about. I guess you could talk about it. Optimization is basically just the idea of like maximizing the efficiency of something. And when I look around society, life, you name it, I can't help but notice that a lot of people are just kind of dragging their feet through life. And I've certainly been someone who has, someone who's been forced to do a lot of things that never really called to them naturally. Whether it was schooling, whether it was a job, whether it was just dealing with toxic people, you know, family, you name it, just being in places where it's like, I'm just here because I'm being told to be there. It's like, I'm not being fulfilled by the whole experience, right? Like something, my spirit is dying inside, right? So, you know, I would argue that like what I'm getting at, we're gonna use the word spirituality, although the word's completely overused. But like I'm thinking, what if is it possible for like the whole world, for all human beings to be like fully optimized? Meaning this, everybody just knows what to do. Everybody just knows what to do with their time and their energy, etc., so that they don't have to like drag their feet or like hunch their shoulders over and just like walk around like zombies, I guess. And so, that was the question I had, and so I started thinking more about it and like, what is it? What is this idea of optimization? So I'm gonna put it here, and I'm not like pro utopian, I mean, I was I guess a communist at one point, although I don't think I was a true communist, but I understand where the communists are coming from, like if you really get into it, you realize that there's this idea of like history coming to an end, and it's like because there will be no more wars. But the problem is that I'm pretty sure they're kind of off talking about like a utopia, and like low key every utopia is actually a dystopia. A bunch of sci-fi kind of themes on that. But I'm trying to talk about it in a more pragmatic way, and just the idea of life task. I'm going to just put that up here. Like imagine if every person were to find their life task, like how would the world look like if every person had a sense of belonging or had a sense of purpose, like they knew what they were doing, and I think it's still achievable. I've here on YouTube, you can see like, mostly in the podcast community, but you can see just so many people, not all the podcasts, but you can see so many people who have found like a purpose in life, and you can see how they are just in great spirits, and that great, spirited vibe is cool. It's just really cool. And so it's really cool to just see people who are like just really passionate about what it is that they're doing, and they know that what they're doing is important. They know what they're doing, provides value to not just themselves but their community, right? We all kind of want to like, contribute to something bigger, and so there's a sense of value that's like really important, right? And then, sense of purpose, sense of like of just I would argue that it kind of brings you like this like fundamental happiness that's really hard to shake off because it goes all the way down to your core, right? It goes down to the core of who you are, right? And so I find all this stuff like really interesting. Now, here's the thing about like the universe, that I've noticed is that, we typically have like two things that are happening in like the universe in a more basic level. You've got positivity and negativity, right? I guess over here I'll put a plus sign, and then you got negativity, and I would argue like those are like the two main constants to the universe: positivity, negativity, right? I think most of us can agree. What's up is up, what's down is down, right? And there's we live in a world where it's very dialectic, as a Marxist would say, but like, this is, it's just everywhere, whether it's in the physical material, whether it's like good emotions, bad emotions, happy day, sad day, you get my point. Positivity, negativity. And I really do believe this, folks. Maybe humanity will never fully like, or rather, maybe the universe will never become net positive. But I do think it may be possible for humanity to become net positive. It may not. There may be unknown forces in the universe. You can talk about it like in like multiple dimensions if you're into that, or if anyone has read H.P. Lovecraft's concepts about like interdimensional beings. You can talk about angels and demons, all those strange folklore stories that you hear about, like deep outer space creatures and whatnot, or just like ancient religions. There's a lot of unknown out there. And like, if you learn about ancient humans, you hear about like, in the more the cultures that had believed in more than one god. Like there was like gods that would help you, and there would be gods that would like hurt you, just like the Greek gods, right? For us, mostly Westerners, right? So what I'm trying to get at is like, maybe even if humanity achieves this like full optimization where everybody has a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and they just know what they're doing, and like they're not wasting time, it could very well be that just like an evil alien demon monster shows up and then tries to wipe us out, because the universe will find a way to make this positivity negativity like be in equilibrium, right? The universe, from at least a physical standpoint, is constantly seeking equilibrium. And the reason why, I'm pretty sure, is because it all equals to zero. At the end of the day, this is all just zero, right? 1 plus -1 just gives you a big old zero. And the real universe, the reality of life, is really zero. This is God. This zero is like the idea of God. And what is zero? Zero is not, it is a number, but it's like you can't, it's just like a weird number. You can't divide it by itself, mathematically, right? Like you can't divide a number by zero. You add it to the end of another number, and it ends up growing that number like by multiple factors is like a huge way to grow. So I would argue that if mathematically speaking, like zero is very close to God, you could also argue that another number of God would be infinity, right? So there's this weird relationship, just purely mathematically speaking, between infinity and zero, and they do interconnect, and it's a whole can of worms. But like, I think when you get to the level of calculus in like schooling, you start to explore like limits, right? And like limits, start to like explore a little bit of this stuff. But then it goes beyond that, and my scope is really like at the calculus level. Having all that said, where am I going with this? Well, I wanted to talk about just like my perception with this notion of time, and this is where I'm going to wrap up the video. This is not going to be like some super crazy long video. I guess I'm going to put this video. We'll put it in gray. For some reason, I'm going to put time in gray. I'm also going to put it in gray and brown. Some of you may be colorblind, so you may not even see the colors, so it doesn't even matter. But time, and I have this. This is kind of my like proposition. We'll call it like a hypothesis, although it's not really real science or pure science. It's a hypothesis. It's an idea. But I just want to throw out to you all this idea of like, when we are in this like optimization state, when you're like in that flow, right? And I'm sure you've had days like this, like let's say days where if you had a good childhood, you had some days where you were like running around playing with like, you had a good time, and then the day went by, and then all of a sudden, it's time to go home, time to eat dinner, and you get that moment where you're just like, oh man, just like, oh man, and then it's like you try, your day is over, and so the negativity of that day wasn't even the day itself. It was the fact that the day was coming to an end. And that was like the, oh man, moment. And so that's where the negativity kicked in, right? So that's one example of how just like when you're in that flow state, I would argue that the flow state like really relates, to, we'll say positivity, but I don't think it's only positivity. So I think it's, optimization to me doesn't only include positivity, but I think there's a general correlation there. But the other thing about optimization is that you have to confront suffering. Like if you're not confronting like suffering, if you're not learning something new, right? Like it's really hard to optimize because you're not even confronted with a problem, right? So it's like two sides of the same coin in a way. This idea of like suffering, you need suffering as a prerequisite to optimize. If you don't have suffering, you have nothing to like improve upon. So that's another interesting aspect. But the thing I was trying to get at is like, imagine if we do achieve this world where everybody has that life task, has that purpose. Well, how is time going to be perceived, right? How is time going to be experienced? I'm pretty sure time would go by like that, like the blink of an eye, right? Because when you're in that flow state, I mean, the day went by so fast you didn't even realize, like, oh my gosh, time went by so fast you didn't even realize that, like, wow, it's been 3 hours. It felt like 35 minutes. How is that possible? How is it possible that you can experience time so quickly when you're enjoying the moment, but then when you have a slow day or you're having a long, painful day, you end up having a really like, exhausting experience, right? And it's just like, oh, the day is a drag, and it's like, oh my gosh, let this day be over with, and you're just looking at the clock. You just want to get off of work, or you want to just like get out of that situation because it's so uncomfortable, So I find this interaction interesting. My hypothesis is this: if humanity were to achieve this optimization, right, like they were to achieve this sort of optimization sort of lifestyle, I'm pretty sure life would go like that in the blink of an eye. And the question is that something that we want? Is that what we want? My answer, I'll say right now, I think, given the life that I've been through already, I'm pretty sure this would be what I want. I'm gonna tell it to you right now. My short answer is yes. Like, I want am I willing to trade off the life I have now, which is a mix of a little bit of positivity mixed with a little bit of negativity, right? A little cold, little hot, little cold, however way you want to describe it, right? Would I trade that for just this like fully optimized life? And I'm pretty sure the answer for me would be sure, yes, absolutely, duh. But I'm only saying that because I'm still living in a state where, I'm very familiar with my suffering, right? Like I experience still moments in the day that can be challenging. But, I'm thinking this: if that were to be the case and that were to be indefinite, or not indefinite, but like, my life would go by, and rather than when I'm 28 years old, let's say I live for like another 70 years, give or take, what if the next 70 years feel like 10 years, right? Or is that what I want? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but I'm only saying that because of my background in suffering. But then my life would be over, and that's that. I don't think I would even like consider myself as a human anymore. Like, I wouldn't even feel like I have an eye. I wouldn't even like look back at my memories as intensely, I guess, because, or maybe I would. Just like the perception of time would just be so fast. It all happens so fast. Now, here's the other kicker that I want to throw in. I mean, you talk to old people right now, and even old people, I think the ones that have a more positive attitude tend to say, yeah, life goes by fast. But I'm also pretty sure in saying that old people who have a lot of regret in life, they also say the same thing. They say life goes by fast anyways. So it seems like whether it's good or bad, life is going to go by really fast. But I guess ultimately a big part of all of this, to kind of wrap it all together, is this notion of perception. And I'll tell you now, if you have a lot of painful days, your perception of time is really slow. But then you're going to catch a glimpse moment when you're in your older years of life, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did all the years go? And then you have all that, regret or whatever. So it's an interesting conundrum. The whole thing is an interesting conundrum. I'm pretty sure, if you're someone who believes in reincarnation, or it can even be heaven, it doesn't have to exclusively be reincarnation, but it's just this idea of like endlessness, because I'm pretty sure heaven is infinite, at least what I learned from Dante Alighieri, who wrote the Divine Comedy. He talks about like heaven being infinite, and so, like whichever example you want to turn to, it's just this idea that you'd be on repeat. And I'm wondering, like, if that were to be your life, or and here's my analogy too. Like it's like if you're in this optimization mode, it's almost like oil in a pan, olive oil in a pan that you're heating up. And you know how when it starts initially, it's a little viscous, it's just a little slow, but once that pan starts to get real hot, it starts to become very liquidy, right? And before you know it, that drop of olive oil, it's almost like it's water, right? It's very watery. It's my attempt to draw some like waterness around this drop of oil, right? But the idea is pretty much the same. It's just like you end up with like this perception of time thing. And I don't know about y'all, but when I'm there like trying to heat up the pan, like I tend to zone out. And before I know it, I'm like, wow, that was fast. Other times it takes too long, right? So what are we getting at here? I'm wondering like if this whole thing of this optimization state were to be achieved by every human being on Earth, and we were to be like, I don't know, like some advanced alien species or something, I guess, would we even be satisfied? Would we even like? I mean, the whole point is to be in a state of well-being, but like, would we even experience life the same anymore? And I don't know. The short answer is I have no idea. I know that someone like Dostoevsky, Fyodor Dostoevsky, who's definitely a deep philosophical man, probably the most influential Russian I've ever met. Him and like Lex Friedman are probably like my top two at the present moment. And Isaac Asimov is the other guy. He wrote all these sci-fi novels. But like, I'm pretty sure his argument was like, human beings, we would, because of our inherent nature, we would want to find, we're so attached to suffering that we would want to like, throw something off balance on purpose just to keep things exciting. But I'm thinking like if humanity were to evolve, like say, and become holy people, say we all experience ego death, let's say, and become like Jesus Christ or something like that, more or less, and then we all are reborn again. I'm wondering like, well, maybe then the alien monster shows up, or maybe Planet X would come by, right? I'm pretty sure that may be causing the rising waters or something like that. Or maybe, life just moves on. Whatever happens in the future, I mean, who really knows? But it's all really interesting. I hope this video was insightful to y'all. There was another thing I wanted to share with y'all on this subject, and it's slipping my mind. But the general takeaway was just this idea of optimization. I just found a really interesting concept. And then I guess the thing that where to wrap up this video is just trying to understand what's the difference between, say, optimization and positivity? Is there a difference? Or is there not? Maybe the suffering is the difference. How do these components fit together? How does suffering, optimization, positivity, and negativity all fit together? And I think on that note, I'll stop the video here. But if you want to provide any insights, please, because comment below, all that good stuff, right? The liking and all that, optimization, not optimization, algorithm stuff, because A, it helps the channel. B, I actually want to get some feedback. Like, I want to get some insights on what other people are like, what other folk are just like thinking about, I guess. But it doesn't have to just be like pure thinking. What's your intuition trying to tell you? Because this stuff is it's just super interesting. So with that, there's the question: how does optimization, suffering, positivity, and negativity, how do those four components all fit together? Because they clearly have a relationship, but I'm not sure how these components fit together to create, say, this car engine that is the metaphysical universe. And then there's one more ingredient, which is time. I guess that would be the oil, right, of the engine. But like, how does all this fit together? So with that, food for thought. That's all I got for today. Peace out.